Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. On this episode, the day's finally here. We are going to get this thing running. However that looks, I don't know. We may run into dramas and things like that. I don't know what we're going to find once we get this thing up and running. So hopefully it's all good. Hopefully we don't have an issue. As I mentioned in the previous episode, we're going to get stuck into figuring out whether we've got all the lifters and everything, rotating, working properly, things like that. So stick around. Let's find out. So I've already gone over a few things, just checking simple stuff like oil and we've got enough water, things like that. So I've gone ahead and hooked up a switch so I can rotate it. As you just saw, I can rotate it without having to be inside the car, so I can control throttle, things like that. So I'm not expecting this thing to be easy to start up, being that most of these parts are fresh on it, especially the carby. So it's probably going to rough idle until we get some warmth into it. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, I want to get it up to temperature so we can do our rocker valve clearances, get them checked out. So, as simple as having a set of feeler gauges and knowing the specs that's on the cam to get those clearances right once it's hot. When it's cold, it is a different animal because all the temperature in the motor will make things expand, and you'll get a couple of thousandths of an inch of expansion between the bottom of the motor and the top of the motor. So you need to make sure the thing is hot, which is problematic. It's messy. You're going to have oil and all sorts of stuff dripping out everywhere. Not to mention, these aren't the easiest rocker covers to get off. So it's going to be some juggling and probably a lot of swearing. Righto, let's see what we've got. That was a bit too easy, but alright. Let's see if it likes choke. It may not like the choke, but I kind of didn't expect that, but there you go. That's very close to actually just starting up on its own. Maybe it doesn't like that. Definitely doesn't like to idle when it's cold, so that's all right. I don't expect anything else out of this. I wonder if it's... Timing maybe timing's too advanced. So close. really fat already. It's smoking me out in here, so definitely going to have to be looking into that carby for sure. I'm not going to lie, my eyes are stinging in here, but that's to be expected once we get that carby sorted out perfectly. And plus, modern fuels in old engines, they're just always going to stink. Every car I've ever owned stinks. So let's get it up in the air quickly. Let's see if we've got anything dripping out underneath. So far, so good. You know, the fan's coming on. I'm still a little bit concerned about that fan because the fan's maintaining the temperature at idle. You know, but the fan is on at like 70 degrees Celsius. So, you know, that's helpful, but it's not, you know, it's not going to show cruising at, you know, when we go back to Queenscliff, things like that, because that's generally going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 30 degrees outside most years. We've had really bad years up there. But that's my main concern is the traffic style situation where the fan's just not going to cope with getting rid of dispersing that heat. So we'll soon see. I'm not holding my breath for it. It's not really. There's not a lot of airflow pushing through. So we'll run it for a while, see what happens. I'm pretty sure that the dyno session's going to show that weak point 100%. I mean, it's a good thing that they run those big industrial fans in the front of those cars when they're on the dyno, obviously. But, you know, we'll see. So let's get it up in the air now and we'll see what's going on underneath. Just quickly looking around on the floor, which I'm yet to sweep up. There's a lot of shrapnel. Not seeing any oil drops, but as it was going up, I did notice there's this little puddle here, which would lead me to think that there's condensation dripping out of one of these exhaust pipes. I can sort of see something there. That's just tacky, so I don't know what that must be paint or something. I don't know what that is. I reckon we're going to have a little bit of an exhaust leak somewhere there, so that's no big deal. As you can see, that's the handbrake cable I haven't hooked up. So far, so good. Nothing standing out straight away. No water, no nothing. A little bit. So there we go. I think that's going to be a leak right there. Now, I know that's kind of hard to see, but you can see that sort of brown tinge that's coming out right there. So I reckon that might be a bit of an exhaust leak coming out of there. Sort of hard to see on camera, but I just don't understand why there's a mark all the way up here on it. I don't know really what's going on, but that's coming off. So I think that's pushback with condensation trying to breathe out of there. So this one's probably going to need a small amount of sealant of some description on there to get that sealed up. But the other ones seem like they're doing all right. There's small amounts on it. As I mentioned, I kind of expect it, you know. So what's going to warrant that as to really paying attention to it is if it has, you know, that sort of exhaust knocking sound. So if it really has a sound coming out of it, it'll be an issue. But if we're just getting a little bit of leakage out of there, I don't think I'm really going to address it that much. I don't think it's really worth pulling that whole header back off that front portion to get that sealed up, but we'll let it play out for a little while and see what happens. Righto, so where are we at? Starts, good sign. Yet to look into any of the timing stuff. I just went for top dead center. Now, I must have fluked having it before top dead center at some point. Being a dead top center, that wouldn't have run that well. So I'm yet to look into the timing of it. I can guarantee that it's well after where it needs to be. It probably needs to be advanced. I'm guessing somewhere between 8 to 10 degrees at idle. Most of my performance cars and performance V8s have always been sort of 8 to 10 degrees, and then anywhere up to sort of like 30 degrees at 2-3 grand. So yet to have a look into that. I'm not really concerned about that today. It is running idling. That's great. No leaks, which is odd. No fuel leaks, no oil leaks, no water leaks. Fan works, alternator works. It's not very exciting viewing, is it, really? I mean, other than we've got it going, but there's no dramatic things going wrong with it. So, what are we going to do next? I think what we're going to do is just, while we've got heat in the motor, let's start looking at this, valve train assembly on both sides. It's going to be a pain trying to get, this one's the worst one because I've got the brake master cylinder right next to it to get at the bolts. It's an absolute pain. So, time to burn some hands. Great. Having a solid lifter cam combo in an engine bay where it's really tight and it's really hard to get the rocker covers off is really not a smart idea. I really just hope that I'm not always doing this. I mean, that's a lie. I'm always going to be doing this. What am I saying? Furthermore, I wish they had a measurement on how much clearance they want while it's cold. Never see that again. Righto. Of course, I've done the easy one first. Let's just pull these plug leads off. I can tell these aren't going to last too long down there. I don't really need them. The covers I'm talking about, don't really need them. They're not really going to do anything with the way that these heads are set up, if you know anything about Cleveland's. But it's not like the pipe. On a lot of them, the pipe, on a lot of V8s with headers on them, you'll have pipes that will sort of go around the back of the leads or something like that, and that's what that's designed for, to sit up against it and not sort of burn the silicon plug-in. So, is that everything? That's everything. Right, ooh. Oh, that's not good. What have we got here? We've got a milkshake. Let's hope that's condensation. Now it's gotten dramatic. There's no indication in the sump that there's a problem. It could be just condensation. I mean, honestly, this motor's been sitting around for... How long have we been building this? I don't know, like a few months. And to be honest, it's really cold here. There's signs of stuff in the block, but I'm not too sure. Just it's a little bit odd. I reckon that's probably more condensation. We're just going to have to run it and see what happens. The hell is that? Well, to be honest, I think that's just condensation. There's a little bit of milkiness down in the corner here. But it's been freezing here in Melbourne. So as you saw what was coming out of the exhaust and that was a lot of condensation build up and things like that. So I'm not overly concerned. We'll run it and we'll see. You know, there's no indication on that dipstick that there's any sort of water in the sump. So to have that much sort of sitting on the bottom of the rocker cover, that would have to be right through the motor if it was sitting on the rocker cover. So I think it's more just condensation that's been in the motor. It'll just probably burn off. So not going to put too much, energy into thinking about that, but I'll get you in here now and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We're just making sure that all these lifters are going to be all right on this cam. Now, I'm only doing this just because I want to make doubly sure. I'm not overly concerned that there's something wrong with the motor, but the motor's new to me, so I want to be able to just put it out of my head that all this assembly is working properly. So I'll get you in closer and I'll show you what I do just to make sure that this is going to be an okay thing. So before we get into doing rocker clearances, I'll just simply show you a quick method of trying to find out if there is something wrong with your cam or a lifter. I got shown this years ago when I was chasing a ticking noise, which I did find out at that point with that method that I actually had a bent push rod. But it's a simple, quick little thing for guys who are, not really familiar with going through crazy measurements and all that sort of stuff to try and figure out what's going on. I mean, most people will know straight away if they've got a ticking noise where it's coming from if you pull down a million motors. But this is a quick little test to just visually see what's going on with your cam. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, the lifter is designed so when the lobe comes around, the top of the lobe comes around, that lifter will actually sort of twist on it just a little bit. It won't be heaps, but as long as it does twist and is constantly sort of rotating where it sits, it's fine. If it sits in the same position constantly, you've got a problem. It's either, chewed out the lobe on the cam or vice versa. It's going to chew out the lifter anyway. So visually, this is just a little easy test to do. You don't need much paint, but all you do is simply just put a line on the outside of the push rod with a bit of paint pen, not much, just something that'll give you a reference. Also helps if your pen works. It's not meant to be drawing on oil, obviously, but as I say, just some sort of reference point. You don't need much on it. Now, you can run it to see what's going on, but it will also do the exact same thing, just cranking over. Any rotation, it will start to rotate those push rods in the lifters as well. So without running it and without the ignition on, we'll just rotate it over and just see if all those lines turn around. And as you can see there, they all did. They all turned around. So that's good news for this side. We're yet to do the other side, obviously. So as you can see, they all rotate. They also are all filling up with oil, which is another good thing. Yeah, they are. They're all the rockers are filled up with oil. So all the lifters that are, controlling this side of the engine are all good. Not worried whatsoever. So next thing we're going to go over is just those clearances. So you can see that, there is a little bit of what would seem like too much clearances, but that's probably actually intolerance. So I've gone ahead and actually laminated my specification card sheet for the cam itself, because it was starting to get really wrecked. And plus, when you're working, in oil and stuff like that, I don't want to lose this. You really need to keep these with your cam because some part numbers will actually evolve and change in what their specifications are for the cam. So this is actually what's in this motor. And as it states on here, valve setting intake is 0.026 and exhaust is 0.026 hot, obviously. So, we're hot enough. Temperatures come down by about 10 degrees. But that's fine. We should be fine at that. So we'll just start going along and making sure our clearances are right. So what I like to do is actually disassemble my feeler gauges and actually just take that one feeler out instead of having the whole bunch in your hand. So you're only dealing with the one feeler. So generally what you want to be able to do is put the feeler gauge in between the roller tip and the top of the valve, and for it to actually stay there. So that actually has too much clearance there. That just wants to sort of fall out. And as you can see, it sort of wants to rotate. So I should be able to hold it firm. Not too firm. You want to be able to get it in there fairly easily. But that's actually showing too much. I can actually wiggle that underneath that roller tip. So that's got too much clearance underneath there. So I don't know whether it was picking it up on camera, but I could actually hear probably too much valve train noise. It was sort of a bit clacky and, carrying on. So that sort of proves my theory. We've got way too much. So I've got a feeling that the guy who sold it to me may have just quickly gone over the motor and may have done it wrong, done it cold. I'm not too sure, but that just needs tightening up just a little bit. I just go from really one to the next. I don't sort of jump around too much trying to find loose, rockers to jump straight onto. I know there's a lot of guys who go from like one side to the other, blah, blah, blah. But that's why I've hooked up this switch, so you just keep rotating it until you get it to where it needs to be. So as you can see, let's just call it, I know it's not the actual terminology for what cylinder it is, but let's just call it, well, it is actually on this side, but 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I just go from do 1, go to 2, and move on. I don't try and jump around trying to figure out which one's which, because, it just confuses things for me. So moving on to the next one, as you can see, the pressure's been put down onto what is the intake valve, and we've got a loose exhaust valve here, so this rocker here, so we can start working on this one as it sits and just repeat the process over and over again. So same thing, that's way too loose. Like, as you can see, it's just easily, you can just move it underneath there way too much. So this was not at all set up correctly. It's almost like it goes loose again. You can see how that just swings around like that. I don't like that whatsoever. It should be fairly firm on that tip.
That's what she said.
Anyway, rinse and repeat. I'll get all these done and we'll check back in. Righto, that side's done. Completely done, so I'll get this back together and then I'll bring the engine temperature back up again, just so we're not too cool for the other side, and repeat the process on the other side. This one really is the worst. I don't know if you can see it down in there. Right down in there. Oh, got it. What the hell? That's the worst. That is absolute a pain to get to. But we got it. Hey, I should probably show you. Same sort of thing. So that's why I'm sort of thinking more condensation. Where are we at? What's going on? Ooh. They're really loose. All right, let's just start. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just go through them. All right, so we've got pressure on that one, so we can do this one. Why did that feel looser before, but... Aha. Be careful. Alright, that's starting its downstroke. There we go. Way too loose. Oh, at least it's done up tight. Alright, let's see what we got. Loosen that off a bit. Just starting to bite on that. Yep. Why are these all so loose? Righto, they're all clearanced properly, that's all done. The one thing we haven't done, which I've forgotten about, is to do that test again and make sure that the push rods are rotating. So let's get that marked up now, and hopefully this side's good as well. And one more thing before we move on to that test, just to mention, is that some of these rockers were actually tight. I don't understand what the previous owner was doing. He did sort of mention, you know, why should I have to clearance them? If they're set at the right height, you should be able to, you know, just keep running it. But guys who run flat tap at solid rollers, you know, whatever it is, you know, in any sort of solid lifter situation, they know that it's always changing. Things are going to slowly wear out. Things are going to come loose. Blah, blah, blah. So you really need to keep on top of this, you know, to keep that, you know, the valve train happy. So I don't know what was going on, but now I know it's okay. We'll just do this last test now, and hopefully that puts everything out of doubt. Try and get a better angle for you guys to be able to see that. So as I mentioned, you don't have to have the engine running, just be able to turn it over is enough, and they should do what they're supposed to do. Beauty. Okay, guys, well, to say that I'm happy is probably an understatement. I'm stoked. I really am stoked that this has turned out to be a really good motor. So, as you saw, we've got oil coming up to every rocker. The push rods are all rotating. Clearances are right. A little bit concerned with the clearances on the rockers to valve stuff. That's that's a bit odd, having some that were tight and then some that were pretty loose. I'd call them like double almost what they should have been. But he did sort of mention to me when I bought the motor, the guy that I bought it off, that he was a bit underwhelmed about doing valve clearancing. So I hope that he kept it up well enough that we haven't actually done any damage, but I'm pretty confident there's nothing going on. A bit of valve train noise is, probably all that it would have created. It wasn't that big of an issue in those tolerances, to really worry about it. But, I'm really happy. We know that the bottom end of the motor is really good. We've got that cross hatching that's really, really good in the cylinders. So far so good. Really happy with it. Now, horsepower numbers, I'm still uncertain. The way the motor sounds, it sounds like we could be hitting 500, no worries. I don't know. I'm going to say somewhere in between 450, 500. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm just going to keep it conservative because I know that this cam's designed to be a very sort of lumpy idle cam to shake the car and stuff like that. So we'll soon see. We'll soon see when we get it down to the dyno what it's actually going to produce, whether I picked the right carby for this. I know a lot of guys are probably like, no, you didn't. You need a bigger one. But, we'll see. We'll see what the guys say. As I said, I come from experience with having a Chevy 383, which loved this size carby. I had a bigger carby on it, and we just couldn't get it to run right. Constantly sort of chasing. As soon as we went down in carby size, we picked up over 50 horsepower out of the engine on the top end. So it was already producing, I think it was 520 horse, and then we went to like 570 horse. So it's a massive gain on just being able to get that airspeed going through that carby. So look, we'll see. Could be wrong. I'm not going to say I'm right. It's all just a, guessing game for me. I'm not a professional at this. I'm just, having a crack at it. So hope you guys are doing the same thing too. Hope you guys are out in the shed playing around, tinkering, and actually doing this stuff for yourself. So, but anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you like what I'm trying to build here. I appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.